Cenk came on my show and we obviously had a big debate and we talked about right-wing populism and left-wing populism. And there was a moment where I, asked, I was like, well, who is a right-wing populist? Like, who do you like in office? He said Vinny from PBD, and I was like, Vinny eats paint chips, and he didn't disagree. I said Vinny also believes that like the Baltimore bridge collapse was an inside job and things like that. But he was like, Cenk was sort of like really sort of cagey about who he thought was a right wing populist. And then he finally said Josh Hawley. And I didn't want to push back at the time, but it's important to look at like why Josh Hawley might be like good on some issues and why he's definitely a bad person, why he is scary and not the answer beyond his like, men need to not touch themselves and we need more role models. And I'm certainly not in the club. Like, he just has closeted vibes. And I don't, again, not to draw too much of a conclusion, not all anti gay Republicans are themselves closeted, but a good amount of them, but so he was saying, that like, Josh Hawley had sworn off corporate PAC money. And what's funny is that Open Secrets did a story about this about 3 years ago, 2021. And in fact, Ted Cruz also said that he renounced corporate PAC contributions. But you know why? It's because they were woke. That's why. Remember in the wake of the George Floyd uprising, remember in the wake of like, oh my God, what are all these corporations doing? I mean, don't worry, they've all rescinded their inclusivity or DEI programs. It's all gone. But these senators were like, I'm not going to take any more money from corporations because corporations are woke. Exactly. The tipping point for Cruz and Hawley came when big businesses, including Coca-Cola, Delta Airlines, and Major League Baseball, announced a GOP-backed law in Georgia that critics will say make it harder for Georgians, especially people of color, to vote. In an op-ed published by the Wall Street Journal under the title, "Your Woke Money is No Good Here," Cruz announced that he will no longer accept campaign support from corporate PACs. So let me get this straight. Coca-Cola, it's not even anything George Floyd related. Coca-Cola, Delta, and MLB were like, hey, don't pass, laws that make it harder for people to vote, especially people of color. It feels like, just like Jim Crow poll tax situation. Okay, could you not do that? And so that's when Cruz was like, absolutely not. You're woke. For far too long, woke CEOs have been fair weather friends to the Republican Party. They like us until the left's digital pitchforks come out. Dude, digital pitchforks. Who does that sound like? Who does that sound like? Right answers only. Who does that sound like? Digital pitchforks. Left's digital pitchforks. I feel like I've heard that pretty recently. Hawley followed Cruz's lead the next day, tweeting that corporations, quote, ship our jobs to China, mock middle America's way of life, try to control our speech, and run our lives. The two senators are also advocating for retaliatory policies to hit back at businesses that criticize GOP-backed policies. It's time we stood up to them. I won't take corporate PAC donations, and I'll fight to break up their monopoly power. Okay, but like... So this is really important, actually, to see the why, right? It is all fucking fake, right? It is them being pissed. And here's the original tweet. It's them being... It's them using this. So Ted Cruz, like, starting today, I'll no longer accept money from any corporate PAC. I urge my GOP colleagues to do the same. For too long, Republicans have allowed the left and their big business allies to attack our values and ship our jobs overseas with no response, no more. Okay, first of all, let's be real. Just because neoliberal has liberal in the title does not mean that Republicans are not neoliberals. Every Republican is a neoliberal. Remember this. Every Republican is a neoliberal. In fact, do you remember the Obama years? Some of you may not. The one issue that Republicans backed Obama on, yes, backed Obama on in his last year in office was the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which was a free trade agreement. So miss me and you with the GOP being like, we're against free trade. No, they've been for free trade. And I understand Hawley's trying to change his tune and whatnot, but it's such bullshit to say that they are like anti-corporatist. No, they give tax breaks to the corporations. And at this point, we are in a moment of just which industry head is going to lead, right? It's not, again, the class war has been won. They've won. The rich have won. The 1% have won. It's just who's going to be the person in the room? Who's going to get the no-bid government contracts? Who's going to be the one making money from all of this? So it sounds like he's saying they ship our jobs to China. That's okay. Yes, but there's also fuck tons of xenophobia in there, right? Like that's what they want you to think. Mock middle America's way of life. What does that even mean? Corporations are middle America. You're mad at Coca-Cola because you don't think they're middle America. You're mad at Coors or what is it, Budweiser, because they're not middle America because they gave money to a massive influencer who happened to be trans. You're mad? Corporations are supposedly middle America, right? Try to control our speech and run our again. What are you talking? They definitely run our lives. But they're not saying I'm going to stand up for unions. No, it's all because they think they're woke. That's the angle here. Meanwhile, Josh Hawley's like paid some lip service, and this was back in 2023 during the UAW strike. He joined the strike actually on the picket line. So again, he's doing the right things. But Prem Tucker back in September of 2023 showed that Hawley received campaign donations from General Motors and Ford. It's all fucking performative. And you could argue that it's performative for Biden as well. But like, Biden actually put some bark behind the bite. You know what I'm saying? Biden actually wasn't just performative when it came to labor rights. You know, the NLRB, perfect example. The FTC, which has everything to do with corporate control, another perfect example. Lena Khan has now been axed. Goodbye. No more breaking up Google or suing Google. No more suing of Ticketmaster. More gouging. Hawley appeared at a General Motors plant in Missouri earlier this week to join members of the UAW. There he called himself pro-worker, challenged the companies to give workers a pay raise and more time off. While he's rallying against the big three now, he's previously received campaign contributions from automakers. During his first run in 2018 through 2020, he received $8,500 from GM's PAC. His Senate campaign received $3,500 from Ford's PAC and another $1,000 from GM executive. So, asked about his donations, a spokesperson for Hawley said that he promised to no longer accept money from corporate PAC. So he's changed his tune, guys. Maybe he's a different man. Let's keep digging into Josh Hawley. Maybe he's a different man on all this. Give me like literally 2 seconds. Talk amongst yourselves. Franny forgot to pull up this article that she saved. Here we go. Okay. So has he been bought? Has he been bought by corporations? Maybe not. Maybe he's sworn off that corporate campaign finance. But Open Secrets does keep a tally. And they look, and let's see what kind of bedfellows we've got for his Fighting for Missouri PAC. So the Senate Conservatives Fund, which I don't know much about, is a pretty big one. I should do a little bit more digging on who the hell these guys are. Senate Conservatives Fund, almost $200,000. Diamond Pet Foods. I mean, you're owned by Big Kibble. That's Big Kibble right there. Ooh. Number 3 contributor, American Israel Public Affairs Committee, otherwise known as AIPAC. I've heard of them. I've heard of them. Now here's the thing. You could be like, well, at least it's not Coca-Cola or Delta, but AIPAC, one of the top recipients of AIPAC money, although I'm not saying he's the top, but like someone who's like one of their main contributors is AIPAC, not really going to be a good ally. So again, I'm not saying that I'm not saying that people's fake populism can't be wielded to actually get stuff done. I agree that it can get done. And in fact, I think Bernie Sanders introduced some legislation today, or he says he's going to introduce legislation to cap like credit card fees. And I think Josh Hawley's joining him on that. That's good. But also Bernie Sanders is in office. Bernie Sanders has the ability to make change. You know, our job in the media is to change narratives, and it's definitely to win these discussions and these fights. And Josh Hawley, meanwhile, and again, that's all like just like economic stuff. But then he's just penning psychotic op-eds. This is from last September. The Christian nationalism we need. Like, do you know what I'm saying? You know, like this is like the crazy stuff. That he's openly embracing Christian nationalism. So some of it is, I mean, some of it's kind of interesting. He's basically kind of trying to mix his Christian nationalism with like an anti-corporate message. But I don't know. I don't know if this is the person I want to like work with. Do you know what I'm saying? I don't know if this is the person that I want to platform. I sure as shit don't think this is the person who's going to help protect people I care about, right? Women's rights, abortion rights, people who, this is not a cultural issue. This is a physical health issue for trans people, women, trans people, people of color, Black Americans, the wokes, you know, like it's fine. It's fine. You do a little bit of digging, and he is scarier than, and like less savory than I think Cenk would like to believe. What's going on, Frantifa? If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that button. And also, you can become a patron and support the show every single week. Get access to bonus episodes and exclusive merchandise. Patreon.com/Bitchuation Room. Do it.